Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt once again here in the Toxic Studios. And with me at the brand new Toxic table is Mr. Doug Hogate.
Hey now, and you know, listen, first of all, my apologies to everybody. We're starting late because, I was running a little bit late. And it's funny because I might not be here a couple weeks because I keep having things come up. And when I do come, it's just like, I'm almost there. It's like the most anxiety I get driving here all the time.
He was stuffing a chicken sandwich down his gullet.
No, I haven't eaten yet. But every time, with that being said, I come here and there's just something new added all the time. So
there's new stuff here. There's going to be some cool stuff going on this summer. So definitely the place to be here at Toxic Radio.
Yeah.
All right, so we are 3 weeks away from our big 300.
You know what? I was going to mention that to you tonight.
3 weeks away.
I didn't know how many weeks. I do. Like I said, I was going to mention something to you about that tonight. I remember when we had our big 100 episode.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was
200
ago. You know. And again, I mean, even going as far back as I think it was episode 2 or 3 when you and I, our relationship began. Yeah. You know, I mean, some marriages don't last that long. And
my first didn't. God knows.
Yeah, but that was again. I think it was 2 or 3 you interviewed me about jumps because your first interview was Susan Beauvais.
Yep.
And then. I can't even remember the number I came in as your co-host, but again, it's just amazing.
33 or something.
Yeah, but it's just amazing with everything. You much like with jumps, I'm sure with you had this idea. Did you ever think this far along you'd be hitting episode 300?
I couldn't even imagine having 300 topics to talk about.
Right.
Much less doing it for 300.
Well, think about how many times we've just wung it, not having that, and it sort of flows. Yeah,
it just works.
We're nerds and idiots all at the same time, and we can do it.
It writes itself sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so tonight's going to be one of those shows. Kind of. We have a couple topics to talk about, but mainly we're going to be doing some ParaNews. And we're going to be doing, toward the end of the show, we're going to do 7 unsolved mysteries from New Jersey.
All right. I'm not involved in anything, right? I don't think I've done anything bad.
We don't know. They're unsolved.
That's true.
Maybe you are.
Yeah. Plus, with it's so funny, too, which I'll talk about this now before we get started, but now that COVID it's still there, but it's I don't even know how to
put
it. Whether it's I guess
we got it on the run.
Yeah, which again, it's so weird now to see people in stores and public places without masks.
Oh yeah,
it was weird with them at first.
Thing.
Now you look at them like, shouldn't they be in prison? But anyway, and then the whole vaccine. But anyway, so with things calming down, I literally in the matter of I think I'm going to say 2-3 weeks have gotten 4 residential investigation requests. Like it's almost like people were, I guess, maybe
the ghosts have been waiting for a year and a half.
Right. Well, either that or I guess maybe people with holding back, having people into their home or whatnot. But I've spoken to 3. I have one more I'm speaking to tomorrow.
I would be curious.
And
I'd be curious to find out whether or not these investigations that you go on for a little while here at least.
Right.
After the whole COVID thing blows over, whether they are more intense, the investigations than previously.
And that's what it's funny you say that because that's something that I'm actually curious to see also is, within a sense, I don't want to say not being disturbed, but with things being so calm, which I know we briefly spoke of, before is with all the stuff that's going on and how just energy and atmosphere has changed over the last just over a year now. Yeah, what kind of effect now when you're actually using the tools, using the devices to see how they will react and what kind of readings and what kind of evidence will capture.
I mean, depending on how strictly people adhered to the stay-at-home mandates,
right?
And I know some people really strictly.
Some people are still they are still imprisoned.
To me, I never locked myself in my house. I still had to go out and get food. I went out to places I had to go. I didn't do it as often.
I think maybe the first week, when everything kind of shut down, you were not even to, and it wasn't even so much with being we got to stay locked in. I think it was just more along the lines of there was nothing to do. Everything was closed and so.
Yeah, but you hear people that talk even now, and they're like, oh, thank God, I can go outside again.
Yeah, it's almost like can't open
I'm
windows.
You didn't go out actually go outside for a year, like really?
Right. Like it was a zombie apocalypse kind of deal, But
but the reason I'm bringing that up is, you wonder if some of those people, if they were literally living in these houses that maybe they had infestations or whatever, given the fact they were living in this place and not going out, did that affect the haunting? Did it affect them personally, psychologically?
And that's kind of with what you're saying. Yeah, that's kind of two theories I've written down so far with interviewing these people on the phone prior to getting this all lined up. Is that right? Like you had said, being stuck longer in a house, that energy of even the anxiety, depression, or whatever the case is, where you are trapped in there for that longer period of time, spiking. But in addition to that, another theory is where people do go out and have to live their lives, work, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's just that the activity has, in a sense, always been there, but because they're more present at home all the time, they're really saying what it's like when
was the ghost showing off.
Out. Yeah. It's kind of
they had a captive audience,
right? It's kind of like a kid where they're used to maybe after school for 3 hours being on their own, but then all of a sudden their parents are now. It's kind of like, oh, I don't have that freedom, so to speak. So,
Mom and Dad are home.
There are quite a few different things that I know that I'm interested in seeing and I'm curious to see, but and of course, with that being said, we'll talk more because, I know depending on you and how you're doing, coming on the investigations as well. I mean, definitely some things that we'll look at and theorize in addition to helping the people as well. It's not all about us. But it's just interesting how it's just this big, sudden blow up of I need an investigation, so. All
right, so like I said, today we're going to talk a little bit about some mysteries that are still lingering here in the state of New Jersey. But before we get to that, I want to do a little bit of ParaNews.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think? You up for it?
That's always my favorite.
All right, let's roll with some people. Let's roll with some ParaNews here.
Four corners of planet Earth, from the far reaches of the known universe. You can run, but you cannot escape. Paradelphia News.
All right.
Has he been vaccinated? I don't want to be near that guy.
I wouldn't want to be
near him,
even if he was.
He's been around longer than the show itself. Anyway.
All right, so first one here, and these are all coming from, mysteriousuniverse.com.
One of my favorites.
They collate a lot of these stories and do little snippets on them. When I post the link, I just post their one link, but when you click on that link, you get their page, and they have links to individual stories if you wanted to dig in further.
Right. It's like they summarized the bigger one. Yeah.
So the first one says, and I haven't heard of this before, but hey, what do I know? The so-called, quote, blood snow, which shows up in the summer on mountain glaciers worldwide, is actually caused by green algae and is good for the environment. It causes the snow melt that feeds rivers. But a new DNA study found that climate change is messing with their systems, and that's not good for the local economy. So blood snow, I assume what this is just by the description. You see the rivers and lakes that turn red because of the algae.
Right, exactly.
I assume it's the same thing on snow.
Right. And that's it's funny when you saying that. The first thing that popped into my head is one of the biblical theories of the rivers turning red.
Right.
That being theorized before as being, like you said, the algae, because algae does
the Red Sea
so much to the water and churns all kinds of colors that it. So yeah, that's crazy. Now it's doing snow. I mean.
Yeah. So I mean apparently it's that's what it is, but it's we're messing with the climate, and
did you see?
Who knows what repercussions there's going to be for that?
Have you seen also? Not to go too far off topic. There was I didn't look into it yet, but I had something pop up. I guess they've named a new ocean in this world. I saw.
Here's the thing about that.
Okay,
I teach
right, and that's why. Yeah.
So I don't usually teach like social studies, but sometimes in my job I. Especially at the beginning of this year, I kind of was setting the groundwork for my lessons, and I did show the kids the continents and the oceans.
Okay, yeah.
When I was a kid, there was no such thing as something called the Southern Ocean.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Now there is.
Okay.
Now there's something just north. It's between the Antarctica and the bottom of South America.
So that little,
Africa,
that kind of little point, those
like a strip of ocean between where Antarctica is and the bottom of those two continents,
right,
is now called the Southern Ocean.
Okay.
Whereas when I was a kid, that was just the bottom portion of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
It's where they met, kind of. I would figure, you know.
And I looked at this. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Right.
When did this become a thing?
Someone got bored and just started naming portions. Someone bought that portion of it.
I don't know. Like I'm not sure what you're referring to, but that's what I'm.
That is because again, I saved the thing that popped up because it's National Geographic, and it says they've been making them since 1915. But it says that. But that's exactly what it is, the Southern Ocean, because it shows a picture of the glaciers and icebergs and everything near in the Southern Ocean. And I didn't have a chance to fully read into it to know that that's what they were referring to, like where exactly it was.
Yeah.
So, but that's
somewhere along the way.
Again, it's almost like
an ocean.
Yeah, it's almost like governments are selling portions. You can act now. You can own a part of the ocean.
The Amazon.com ocean.
I'm going to buy an acre of ocean.
Stick around. That's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You wait.
I'm going to name it Doug's Piss.
I give it 10
hole.
Give it 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have the Amazon.com ocean. Previously known as the Atlantic.
SpaceX. The SpaceX portion. Or
Just
I know.
wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
Everything's for sale. Speaking of which, in a new tweet, Elon Musk discusses cold hard cash, disses cold hard cash, saying that, quote, goods and services are the real economy. Any form of money is simply the accounting thereof.
Okay.
So this nitwit thinks that the economy is based on the actual goods and services and not money.
So then if I want to buy, let's say, this chair for Mike, I can say something like, hey, I'll give you 10 Pepsis for it, in a sense. I mean, is that kind of...
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Right. It's almost like...
completely undermines the entire... what do they call that? The gold standard?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, try going into a store with shoes and say, "I have these laying around, so
it's
pay
bartering is what it is.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
It's a bartering system. What's up, Mike? You guys, you got a comment on that?
Maybe he really wants to sell me one of these chairs for
you're just trying to show your face on screen. What do you think? Are we getting to the point where we're going to start bartering?
Maybe
I just wanted to give Doug the look, just the toxic Mike look of disapproval.
I said
we're not bartering for anything in here.
10 Pepsis for this chair. Take it or leave it. I'm telling you.
Leaving it. You take your Pepsis and you do it like The Rock. You turn it sideways and you know what to do from there.
I'll just wheel out with it.
Shine it up.
I'll wheel out with it.
Turn that little bitch sideways. You know where the candy goes.
I'm gonna buy the chair and then sell a portion of it to advertising to Pepsi. So anyway,
a new study of U.S. adults found that only 33% would use a hypothetical life extension treatment that would allow them to live forever.
Hypothetical,
even if because it doesn't exist.
Okay, yeah.
Even if it were available today, while 42% would refuse it and 25% say they were unsure. So, again, 33%, 1 out of every 3 people.
Right.
If there was a pill or a lotion or whatever.
A vaccination,
whatever, that would extend your life forever.
33%. 1 in 3 people would do it.
66% of the people either wouldn't do it or aren't sure.
Right. To me, if that was, again, if it wasn't hypothetical, let's say 10 years from now they came out with that being a thing. Again, my hypothetical scenario here. I think it would be just like anything else. Again, I don't mean to keep bringing up the vaccine, where you have that percentage saying how, the COVID vaccine, I'm not putting that in. You would have those people saying,
you have it with everything. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So... But then again, like what I guess the whole point of this is who really wants to live forever?
I actually read years ago. I read a book. I forget the name of it right now. It was actually pretty good. It was a book that had that as a premise, where there was like this a shot or something that you could get, and you would literally live forever. It wouldn't make you younger, but whatever age you were,
it would stop.
You would stop your aging.
But see, then does it? Okay, it stops your aging, but like you could still get killed in accidents.
You can still have accidents.
Okay, like my head wouldn't fall off, and I'd still be talking.
No, but you wouldn't ever get sick. You would never die of natural causes.
Okay,
and the book, it was interesting because it was part fiction, but it was also part like psychological study.
Right.
Because you know what happened in the book was you had I forget how it all went. It was years ago I saw this, but it was like, or read this, but it was like underground medication. Like they were selling this because when you got to a certain age, I think you couldn't use it. I think or something like that. Like the age of 25, you had to make a choice to use it. But if you were, or you could make a choice to use it, but if you were like over 60 or something like that,
right,
that you couldn't.
I got.
And the idea was that they still wanted people to die because they wanted to, because the resources wouldn't be there if everybody lived forever.
Exactly. Yeah, I see. Right.
So it was like this thing where like it was this whole drama that played out where people were trying to get the drug that were older, but the younger people were. It almost sounds like the bitching the millennials do now.
Right, and not only that, with you saying, I actually just searched this real quick because it popped in my head. You know, you do have how many of that percentage would be people that have a fear of dying? And like right here, it says, according to 2017 survey of American fears, this was by Chapman University, 20.3% of Americans say they are afraid or very afraid of dying. So with, you said
20%?
20.3, yeah, 20.3%.
There's a lot of people lying in that,
you know,
that survey.
saying that they have this
It's a lot higher than 20%.
I was going to say this fear of death. Well, see, I think it's how it's, I feel they need to characterize that a little bit more because there's a difference. A fear of dying, like, oh my God, I got to watch where I step. I don't want to fall and possibly die. It's almost like you have that absolute fear of dying, like I can't let anything happen. Or you have that thing where I don't want to die. If it happens, it sucks, but I don't want it to happen. So I think there's different levels.
Well, the only people that I've ever heard that have had this cavalier attitude, like, it's cool, I'm fine with it, are people that have had, and they talk about this, have had near-death experiences.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Where they come back and they're just like, yeah, I've seen everything and it's cool.
It's like an acceptance.
Now, that makes me personally feel a little better.
Right.
That you're so confident all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you did see something. Maybe we're good.
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. But short of that, I don't know anybody that doesn't have some kind of a fear of that because that's the ultimate unknown.
It is. And that's where the fear is. It isn't so much the fear of dying. It's the fear of the unknown. It's not knowing what the hell happens when you die. So I mean, but you're right. It is interesting. Yeah, 20.3.
Hell of a lot higher than 20%.
You know, so
you got like I'd say closer to 80% lying in that freaking survey.
Yeah, it's all the cool freaking tough people trying to be like, I don't give a shit.
I'm fine. Some scientists are warning that those growing mega constellations of tens of thousands of satellites like the Starlink network will eventually burn up in the atmosphere and release tons of chemicals that could damage the ozone layer and geoengineer the planet in unforeseen ways. So basically, there are satellites out there linked together.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What happens when they crash into the atmosphere all at one time?
Right. And see, me being the space nerd that I am, so for anybody who isn't sure of what the Starlink is, there are literally on top of all the other satellites. I just picture the International Space Station looking out at the thing and just seeing all this shit passing by because all the stuff we got orbiting this Earth. Yeah. And, hence all the space junk and stuff. But anyway, Starlink, in a nutshell, it's a group of satellites. It's communication. They want to use it for, worldwide internet one day, everything. It's just these random communication small satellites.
Don't we already have worldwide internet?
What's that?
Don't we already have that? Worldwide internet?
I don't know, but they literally...
World Wide Web. That's what WWW stands for.
Yeah, well, the connection of it. Well, anyway. So, but with the Starlink, I mean, they literally are, like, sending up freaking a new satellite connected to this, like, every week. But I get what you say, and they're, like, NASA and SpaceX, their whole explanation with fear of that is they all try to say, oh, well, everything that they're made of will burn up in the atmosphere because, again, when they're returning to space, it gets like 4,000 degrees as they return. But, again, they can easily say that, but you get hit in the head with a bolt that survived that re-entry.
Who knows?
So...
All right, herpetologists in the northern Amazon region discovered 3 new species of fat, narrow-mouthed zombie frogs.
Did you say herpetologists?
Herpetologists. Not herpes.
Okay.
Herpetologists, like
I
snakes
get you.
and frogs.
It just, yeah.
Zombie frogs, which get their name because the scientists have to dig the rare frogs out of the muddy ground during heavy rainfalls when the males croak their mating call.
Yeah.
It still doesn't explain why they call them zombie frogs. I don't know.
I don't know.
Might be shy frogs, maybe.
Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe it's how there's 50 million definitions in thing. Maybe there's more for the zombie.
That's a weird story. The ghost of drug kingpin Pablo Escobar haunts Colombia via the 4 hippos he imported for his personal menagerie, which escaped and quickly grew to 100, and are threatening native wildlife with their prodigious poop, which pollutes waterways, fuels algae blooms, and deprives fish of their oxygen.
Okay.
This is an actual story. So let's back up here. Let's take this. There's a lot to unpack here.
Because I literally, in that 10 seconds, I just thought of all kinds of trigger items if I was investigating.
Pablo Escobar was a strong man back in the early 90s, I believe it was, late 80s, early 90s.
Like that, yeah.
Who basically he was. I saw it on a really good 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN about him a few years back. He was kind of like the Robin Hood.
Well, yeah, like anybody that got drug, it most likely came from his most likely.
He was a drug dealer. He was a drug kingpin.
Yeah, right.
But what he would do is he would he made himself ridiculously rich. But what he would also do is give money to these communities and give parks and give things like material goods to these communities that were just dirt poor.
I mean,
so they loved him. He was like a fucking god to these people because he had all this money and he was giving it to them.
He wasn't just using it to exactly.
But he got this money by selling drugs to the U.S. and a bunch of other places.
It's so tenfold. It's just like, how do you know?
And he was killed. Long story short, he was killed back in the mid 90s, I think it was.
Right.
So Pablo Escobar apparently had a menagerie of animals, and part of that was 4 hippos that escaped and did what hippos do naturally and eventually grew to 100 hippos.
I didn't know hippos were like rats. I mean,
hippos are like bunnies, apparently.
I mean, it's like he
hungry hippos.
He must have jumped in one. He's possessing Pablo Escobar's possessing a rhino or a hippo. Yeah, a hippo.
But now there's 100 of them, and they poop all over the place, and it messes with the waterways and deprives fish of oxygen. And
now, see, if he was still here, he would use that money to get rid of hippo poop in the water.
That seems like a stretch. We have hippos that are crapping all over the place. Hang on, let's blame this on a guy that died 25 years ago.
Again, it's just trying to put. That's what cracks me up. Is always trying to put the blame on something. So it's like, take away from me. Like it's.
An Arkansas angler fishing at Beaver Lake in the Ozark Highlands last week reeled in an extremely rare gold-colored largemouth bass. Largemouths are usually green and brown, but this once in a million gold one suffered from xanthrochronism, which is the absence of black and brown pigment. So a gold largemouth bass. I'll bet you he didn't catch and release that one.
No, I'm sure not.
That sucker's on his wall. All right, football, the soccer kind. Star Chris Smalling says he and his topless model wife Sam were, quote, gobsmacked to see a silent UFO that flew low in front of them and then stayed high in the sky for an hour before they had to leave the scene. Both swear it was not a drone and they were not on magic mushrooms, but both were too gobsmacked to take a photo or video. Again, lot to unpack here.
Right.
Chris Smalling, I don't know who the hell this guy is.
Right,
he's a soccer player, I guess.
Yeah. You don't know him?
The interesting part of this is his wife, Sam, the topless model.
Yeah, who doesn't?
That's... I don't... What does that even mean?
I guess...
She's a model who always appears topless?
I guess maybe...
Like she's modeling for milk and she's topless?
Either that or maybe it's one of those things where she's just like, listen, I'll pose for a porn magazine, but I ain't taking the panties off.
I will not. Yeah,
Yes.
I will not wear a top.
She only gets half of what the rest of them get.
She walks down the street and just lets it all hang out from the waist up. Topless model.
Look at all the things they have out there nowadays. Like, you're really surprised.
I mean, what?
That would be like, now think of it the opposite way. Being like pantless model. So it's just like, I won't take my shirt off. I'll take my pants off all day.
Yep.
Sounds like something Mike would do. I'll take my pants off all day, but I ain't taking the shirt off.
He did that when I came in. Came in. Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Rick, I want to show you what I just.
I want to show you my new profession.
That's but yeah. That's freaking.
So that's the news. So I'm gobsmacked, frankly, by that. That the topless model part was more interesting than the UFO.
Right, and the fact too that you have this story and the way they throw in these little descriptive things, like you could have left out.
You could have left out.
Nobody even really knows who the hell the soccer player was.
You didn't even give her last name, just Sam.
Sam,
the topless model.
Sam, the topless model.
All right.
Now you're going to have them perverts listening, Googling her and stuff.
All right, so let's move on here. So New Jersey has some mysteries that happened, obviously, in the state over the years. We've been a state for, 300 and whatever years. And there's, I'm sure, a lot more than 7. But these are the 7 that popped up here in this onlyinyourstate.com article. All right, so number 1, and this is probably the most popular one, or the most well-known one, let's put it that way, the Lindbergh kidnapping.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So probably one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in our state, the Charles Lindbergh kidnapping. His son, Charles Jr., was abducted from the family's East Amwell home on the evening of March 1st, 1932. His body was found 2 months later near the Lindbergh home. Ransom had been demanded and paid, though the child was not returned. The bills were traced throughout the country, but many led back to one man, Bruno Hauptmann. Bruno was convicted and executed, but maintained his innocence. There are several theories that suggest another man, John Condon, was involved, but this has never been proven.
Yeah, that's a big one in New Jersey, the whole Lindbergh kidnapping.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I can say about this that hasn't been said for the past 100 years, but
right.
It is very strange. There were movies that were made about it.
Oh gosh,
Stewart started a movie ages ago about it.
I mean, and not only that too. You again, much like any other kind of mystery or murder or any kind of thing that happened way back, the technology back those days. That's why I always say, detective and police and people like that back in the days before they had forensics and everything. Yeah. They were some badass freaking people in that position because again, you didn't have shit. You had to literally be a thinker to solve these things in a sense, like
if you did it right.
Because you're right. Because that's another thing too is police departments back then, they didn't communicate nationwide and everything. You could be a serial killer on one side of the country and go to another, and no one would know any different.
Yeah, but the fame that Lindbergh brought to that case,
right,
worldwide fame, that had to be a lot of pressure. On that police department to come up with a name and with a perpetrator.
And who knows, maybe they just had one little piece of evidence, and that's why they accused it, just to kind of push them off their back.
Was this guy really the guy?
Exactly, yeah.
Just want to throw a name out there.
It's definitely, and that'll always be. I mean, hopefully one day, but that'll be one of those mysteries forever.
All right. Number 2, and this one's, again, kind of sad. It's more recent, too. January 12th, 1984, 7-year-old Gary Grant Jr. told his mother he had, quote, an appointment at 2:30, but would be back later.
A 7-year-old?
His mother simply believed he had a play date, but when he did not return by that evening, the family grew concerned. After contacting Gary's friends, his mother learned he did in fact spend time with them, but left to go home around 4:30. What happened after that is a mystery. Several days later, his body was found bludgeoned in a parking lot 2 blocks from the family home. Nearly 2 years later, a message was found scrawled on a police car. Quote, Gary Grant is dead. I am living. Another will die on 1/12/86 if all goes right. A second message, scratched into a sidewalk, was found a few weeks later. Gary Grant Jr. lives. I still killed him. Son of a pig son of a pig officer. Payback is an MF. This led officials to believe Gary may have been murdered as revenge against his father, who was an Atlantic City cop. Even still, an emotionally disturbed friend was arrested for the crime. However, the case was later dismissed, and the murder remains unsolved.
Now, see, it's hard because, when you have, again, something that obviously was made public because of the severity of it and everything, and when you get these messages in the sidewalk and the police, it's almost like, was it just somebody messing around that didn't have anything to do with it?
Yeah.
Or, again, it's so hard.
I go back to the very beginning of the story where it says your 7-year-old told you he had an appointment, and you were like,
"Oh, go to your play date.
Go to your appointment," without question. This was almost 40 years ago. Right. Times were different.
This is when, your kids, you could send them off to go ride their bikes around the neighborhood
very, very
all
different.
friggin' day.
Taryn and I were just talking about this. I looked into, there's actually a podcast I've been listening to. It just started up. I think it's called The Devil Within or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's basically what it is. Every season of this podcast is going to be a 7 or 10 part breakdown of a case of what seems like or was perpetrated to be a demonic possession case. Oh, wow. And really? The first one has to do with a murder that happened in 1988 in northern New Jersey, where a 14-year-old kid in this completely suburban, all-American town, all-American Irish Catholic family, bludgeoned his mother and stabbed his mother to death and then committed suicide.
Wow.
And they found out that what had happened was over the course of about 6 weeks, this kid went from normal, average, everyday, all-American kid, and he got caught up in Satanism.
Okay.
And he
just did a 360.
He was all about it. Got all the books, got into the music.
Right.
And in 6 weeks' time, he became this other person completely.
Right.
Now, I haven't listened to the whole, they haven't released the whole series yet, but I looked into a couple of these books that they use for background information, and they're really, really, really interesting. They talk about a lot of things, but they talk about how that satanic panic of the mid-1980s and late 1980s, where that actually came from. And I'm not going to get into it. We don't have time to get into it right now, but I may actually do a show on this because it's just so damn interesting.
Right.
It literally started back in the 1800s, and you can see how the progression went from there all the way up through the 20th century, with the attitudes that people took towards child abuse and how they turned their heads to things like that because the nuclear family in America was so sacred that nobody would suggest or think that a parent would harm their child.
Right.
It was literally unthinkable.
Exactly. If you did.
And even if you thought it, most people were like, yeah, but that's their business. That was literally the attitude. There was no communal, let's make sure that the kids in general in the community are safe.
Are safe, right.
You were your own little island. Every home was your own little country, so to speak.
Right.
And how you ran your country,
what you did behind
your
door.
Business.
Exactly.
And
what
that
you
was the
did
attitude.
So
that's why it took so long for this to kind of catch hold, where they had the reporting of potential child abuse cases. Again, I'm not going to get into this all right now.
Right, because you got to think that that whole the satanic fear, the panic.
Right.
That was I look at that as kind of like the modern day witchcraft, so to speak.
Well, they draw a direct comparison between that and Salem.
Right.
And it's funny because it's point for point for point. And they draw direct comparisons in about 7 or 8 different ways, and you think about it going, holy shit, that's absolutely dead on.
Right.
It was a modern day Salem witch trials in a different context.
Exactly, yeah. But again, and it's crazy, and going with what you were saying about the person or the kid you were talking about where he did a complete 360. Getting into statism, something like that. You just, when you're unaware, if you were always good and you suddenly do that, there's 4 stages of possession, and if you're someone that is not aware of it, you're opening yourself up that being possessed is something that is not going to be hard whatsoever.
Apparently, he took the express elevator.
So I mean, and one final thing I'll say, that's like the serial killer. The one that he was like the lawyer. He defended himself. Not John.
Bundy?
Yeah, Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
He kept his innocence till he was executed because he always said, no, that wasn't me, but obviously it was. To me, obviously, I feel in his head, he knew that, yes, physically he did it, but I think that he was someone that suffered from split personality. The bad him was the one doing all them serial killings, but then the good him, in a sense,
I just think he.
I
think he was a complete narcissist.
Well, there's no doubt he was.
It's really honestly thought he would get away with it.
Yeah,
and he could fool anybody.
Right. You know, it's just again, we could sit here for days and months trying to.
All right, so next one on the list here: the murder of Sigrid Stevenson. The above building, which obviously we don't have for our viewers here, but I'll post these in the show notes. The above building may look like just any other on the College of New Jersey campus, but it isn't quite as welcoming. Kendall Hall was home to a gruesome murder in 1977, the details of which still haunt the campus. The body of 25-year-old Sigrid Stevenson was found on the main stage of the music hall, beaten and bloody. It's believed she attended a show the night before her body was found, and she stayed after to practice the piano. She never left, according to some, and she's still there today. There have been no suspects or leads in her murder, and it remains a cold case.
Wow.
So this woman was murdered on a stage in the middle of a college campus, and there was no leads, nothing.
Just boom. That was it, yeah. That's...
Missing, number 4, missing atomic bombs off Atlantic City coast.
I mean, hey, they go missing all the time.
Just don't shake it too much. On where are we at here? On July 28th, 1957, an Air Force C-124 Globemaster took off on a routine flight from Delaware to Europe. The plane's cargo consisted of several nuclear bombs and one nuclear core. Shortly after the flight began, the plane had some serious issues. 2 of the engines needed to be cut, and an emergency landing was essential. The pilot was to land at Atlantic City's Naval Air Station, but the plane was dropping too rapidly. Cargo needed to be dropped. 2 nuclear core-free missiles were dropped into the Atlantic Ocean several miles offshore. Because the missiles did not have their core, they contained no radioactive material. Still, they were highly explosive. No explosion was reported after the drop, and according to official reports, the bombs have still not been found to this day.
Wow, so they could still be somewhere.
So they're not going to, it's not going to be a nuclear explosion, but it is going to be a gigantic explosion.
Right, yeah, right.
If they ever, the wrong fisherman drops a line down.
Pulls something up, be like, whoop, didn't mean that for that.
Got something here, Bob. I got something here.
He's going to have more than that because you're going to have everything floating up. Yeah.
The Ghost Sniper of Camden. Number 5.
Oh, what, really? Huh?
On January 25th, 1928, a bus windshield and the windshield of 4 other vehicles were shattered by unknown projectiles while crossing the Camden Bridge, which I believe the Camden Bridge is what they used to call the Ben Franklin Bridge.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think. Or either Whitman or the Franklin. I don't remember which it was now.
Now you got me curious. As you're reading, I'm going to look that up.
Google that.
Okay, I got you. I'm on it.
The attacks continued for months, though no one was severely injured. No gunshots were heard, and it is possible the perpetrators were menacing youths with slingshots. Even still, it's quite strange that there were so many attacks and no one was ever caught. Is it really odd? Because it could have been kids with slingshots.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there could have been so many different things. It's just,
That's kind of weird. All right, number 6, the disappearance of William Ebenezer Jones III. On December 17th, 1962, 3.5-year-old William Jones was playing in front of his Vineland home with his dog and younger sister. His mother says she was watching the children through the window, but left for a moment to check on her other son. When she returned, her daughter was standing in the doorway holding a plastic poinsettia. William was gone. His sister said that a man had given her the plant and taken William. The family searched the neighborhood and the police were called, but no trace of William could be found. It is believed he may have been taken by either a sex offender or a family wanting to raise a child. William's case is the oldest unsolved disappearance of a child under 5 in the state of New Jersey, and he may still be out there today, alive and unaware.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So this guy would be about 64, 65 years old.
And I've, sometimes
and have no idea.
I've wondered at looking at watching documentaries or seeing things about these kids who years and decades ago, or babies who just disappeared, been kidnapped, or whatever the case is. How many of them, again, are just living a regular life because they were kidnapped by somebody that they have no idea?
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, obviously, the person
who did it
probably tell them.
No, they probably gave something like, "Oh, you were adopted. We adopted you," and it, But you got to think how many people out there are like that. It's
every 65-year-old male in the entire country, entire world, really. Is potentially this kid.
Right, exactly. I'm still having a hard time trying to. It looks like it was the Ben Franklin Bridge. I just wanted to make sure I had that right. But yeah, so
and we're gonna finish up with a gruesome one here.
Oh yeah,
the missing hide of the Morristown murderer.
Missing hide of
a wealthy immigrant from France, Antoine LeBlanc, got his start in America by working for a moneyed Morristown family.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like his new life as a peasant and developed a plan to rob and kill his employers. He succeeded, but was later convicted. On September 6th, 1833, Antoine was hung for the murder of the Sayre family. It was after his death when things got truly strange. The town reveled in his hanging. His body was used for medical experiments, and his skin was allegedly made into leather souvenirs for local families.
Okay.
This was only a legend until 1995, when his death mask and coin purses made of a strange flesh were found in an old shed. It is believed that the remainder of his hide is hidden in homes throughout the Morristown area.
I mean, again, if you don't know and you got some kind of heirloom or something to pass that, like,
how bad did they hate this dude?
I'm telling you,
seriously, it's one thing to kill somebody, but
then to literally, that's nuts. But again,
we're gonna make purses out of your ass,
and not
literally.
It's something. And I can't remember. I had seen. It was kind of similar, not as much, but like where again, like it was like a wax museum, or no, it was like a Halloween attraction somewhere. They had bought or some kind of thing, like a wax figure, looked like, and ended up being like a real body. That's
the plot of every wax.
But
movie, wax museum
right.
movie.
Well, this was you're right. But no, this was actually the thing. Like someone who was running like a Halloween attraction ended up buying. I don't know, it was at auction or what. But it was like a wax figure, and it had it for like years. Yeah. And I guess it was decaying and fell off, and then it saw that it was like made up of bone and tissue. It was like, man, I've had this dead body here this whole time.
Shit people do.
And it's just, you're right. Like
shit people do.
It's like, are the shoes I'm wearing, were they once someone's elbow, So
it could have been an alligator.
Well, that too. I mean, hey.
All right, so we're going to get close to starting to wrap things up here, but I did want to mention a couple things. Couple weeks from now, we're going to have Dash Daring on to talk about Blobfest. I keep mentioning this. I keep throwing it out there. Tickets are on sale now at thecolonialtheater.com. $25 gets you a ticket for the weekend. They have a whole
which isn't bad at
host
all.
of different events going on from Friday night all the way through Sunday night. Movies galore on Saturday and Sunday. Friday night is a lot of the events like the Miss Blobfest, and they have a tinfoil hat contest, and they have a screaming contest, and they have it's a whole bunch of stuff. Saturday night, Mr. Lobo is doing a what do they call it? Spook show, vaudeville show.
Okay.
Which we saw a couple years ago when I was up there. Right. But for $25 you get access to this for the whole weekend.
And it's a whole week, like $25 friggin' bucks. That is amazing to be able to something to do,
And I think they said they post every now and then on social media. I think they said they had they have. I think it was last I saw was 19 states. People from 19 different states bought tickets.
That's cool.
To the virtual event. Last year, trying to beat their record. Last year they had 32. I think he said.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're trying to beat their record for that. Plus now they have people from Canada too.
Right now, because I remember obviously last year but the year before, that was you were up there for one of the days, right? Or you went for the weekend?
Up there for Saturday afternoon.
That's right. So now is that something that you think, or you haven't really sure yet?
Oh, I'd go back up there.
Once
they do it live, I'll go back up.
Because that's something. Because I know the year that you went before, something happened, but because that's something I want to do too.
Oh, yeah.
So
I definitely will go back up once they do it live again, which hopefully is going to be next year.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be back
with COVID, everything, because that's something. Yeah, because tinfoil hat. I mean, that's so awesome.
And the last item here, I'm going to defer to. You just got back to a seat too. I'm going to defer to Michael, Toxic Michael. You there?
Yes, there I go.
He's getting himself. You gotta pot yourself up, brother.
He can't even run his own stuff.
I walked.
No, I'm just kidding.
It figures. I walk away from the booth for one time.
Hey, I waited for you
during Paradelphia.
I could have thrown you under the bus and thrown it to you when you were in the bathroom or you were in there eating a sandwich or whatever you were doing.
That's what I do.
Now.
I go into the bathroom to eat a sandwich. I just want nobody to watch me while I shove things in my mouth.
I don't know what your quirks are.
It says he only shuts the door to use the bathroom when he is eating the sandwich. So.
Your food fetishes.
No.
So the reason I called you in was
a weird turn.
The reason I called you in is Toxic has a big event this weekend that they're covering down in Atlantic City.
Yeah. So celebrity boxing is going on. Lamar Odom versus Aaron Carter is the top billing fight for this event.
I can't wait for that.
As of right now, because obviously I'm here in the studio, Jamie's here in the studio. We are not down there right now, but the Fishman, Laura, Godfrey from Taking It Deep with the Godfrey are all down there right now. I was watching online as they were getting footage from the weigh-in with Chuck Liddell, Ice-T, like I said, Aaron Carter, Lamar Odom, and so many other
huge names there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wendy Williams has confirmed that she will be sitting ringside tomorrow night for the fight.
Wow.
It is sold out. The highest price ticket at the Showboat. It's no longer the Showboat Hotel and Casino, by the way, because it's just a hotel.
Right.
Cut the casino off. Just the Showboat. They have a giant arcade there now.
Arcade and hotel.
You guys might like this, by the way. I know I'm kind of going off track real fast, but I was there today, kind of there setting up with all the equipment with the team, and they have like old school arcade, like Joust,
really?
Centipede, and Pac-Man.
That's awesome.
I'd be there for freaking hours, man.
Right,
oh my
but
god!
Not even just like the popular ones, like the old school
Defender
ones.
and Asteroids.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like
Dig Dug and
it's not
my god! Yes.
They have the original Super Mario Brothers, like from the arcade.
Right.
They have all this crazy stuff. And it's like a whole row. It's not just like 3 or 4. And I started nerding out so much.
Oh, God, yeah. It'd be like, screw everything else going on. I'm like, here.
It even goes even a step further to the arcades of the 90s. And we're talking about Mortal Kombat and The Simpsons. And
like Zelda,
what was that driving game?
Yeah,
Grand Prix Auto or whatever it's called.
They have all that stuff. It's crazy. But then they have the updated stuff like a VR. It is.
That's cool.
It literally is Dave and Buster's times 10.
It's like separated by decades and generations of games and stuff.
Doug is 100% correct. It really is like separated by decades. And you walk by, and the bartender there was telling me that they get all these bad reviews because they've got old arcades. And I'm sitting there going, bad reviews?
Yeah.
Who's not? I mean, obviously it's kids who don't know.
Yeah.
What
they don't know what they're doing.
They're used to the Oculus and everything. To sit there and use a joystick to go around.
It is Back to the Future.
Right.
Like, that's Back to the Future. You got to use your hands.
Right.
It's a baby's toy.
You got to use your skills, brother.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
These kids have no skills.
And plus, if you see people there, you got older people in one section, middle-aged in another section, and but that's so freaking awesome. Wow.
But it's really cool, and I mean, I know I kind of nerded out more about that than the fight that's going on.
I'll be here.
No, so Celebrity Boxing, Damon Feldman, the CEO, he actually did a podcast on Toxic Radio called Celebrity Boxing's Redemption with Damon Feldman. You can actually still get it. We still do host that podcast. You can go check it out. But also, the fight will be tomorrow night exclusively on Fight TV. I think it's Fight TV, FITE. FightTV.com, but also you can get it on any local cable company that you got or through the internet. It's going to be a hell of a fight. We're going to be there covering it. Me, Fishman, Godfrey, Laura. We're going to get all the exclusives, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
I do have to ask you one question with this. So are you going to do like a Toxic ringside announcing for the fight, like or anything, or can you not? Or
we have not been permitted to do that.
Okay, I was curious.
But when Godfrey was leaving the studio, I did have him take with him the Toxic Radio Championship belt.
Hey, okay.
So, I mean, we weren't invited, but the NWO wasn't invited to WCW.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
I mean,
Scott Hall and
over.
Kevin Nash and all them, they just kind of
come walking down.
Over. So,
right.
I'm not saying we'll be in the ring.
Yeah, you just hop in after whoever won and
But-
say, you're the new Toxic Champion, you
I
know?
mean,
It's just
we
like,
have
whatever.
a belt,
Look,
and we have the means.
Someone will bail you out eventually.
like I
whoever
always
does
say,
it, so,
you don't ask permission, you ask for forgiveness.
How many of those people actually have permission
Absolutely.
anyway? So.
Absolutely.
But
So,
no, but that's cool as
it's
hell.
gonna be a
you
fun
know?
time.
And not only that, the exposure Toxic's getting, but I mean, that's big, man, I'll tell you.
All right.
Yeah, definitely awesome stuff.
So that's going to be a fun weekend. And again, we have a lot of stuff cooking this summer. I know I've been talking to Mike about some of the stuff. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but there
Right.
is some stuff on the back burner or the front burner, I guess you'd say.
And even though we do have a whole summer to get through, I'm really with talking to you more and Mike more. I would love for us in October to maybe possibly at least get maybe to one on location or something.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah. We'll figure that out. Yeah.
Again, we have time, but just
Yeah, we'll figure
but
all
again,
that
we'll
out.
see. But it would be great to get back all into that stuff. So
Yeah. So it's gonna be cool. So next week we're gonna have Jim Matlock back on. Jim was on back in April talking about reincarnation, and he's written a couple of books on the subject. And he wrote a book specifically about children and reincarnation, and that's going to be the topic next week.
awesome. Yep.
The week after that, again, we're going to have Dash Daring on talking a little bit about Blobfest. And I'm not sure what the larger topic's going to be that week, but we're going to have Dash on, and he'll take up some of our time there talking about Blobfest and giving you guys the lowdown on that whole event. And then the following week, if the schedule doesn't change, 7/1, July 1st, is going to be our 300th.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I have some plans for that. I'm not going to go into that right now.
Awesome.
But I have an
300.
idea of what I want to do, and it's going to be something different than we've done before. It's going to be kind of the same and yet different.
Toxic's funding us to go to Hawaii or something to broadcast.
That
our
would be
300,
something.
So, but yeah.
That would be something.
But yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah,
So-
we got that coming up in about 3 weeks.
Right. And I do have one more thing very quick because I know we have to go. Just anybody listening who already, if not, follows the Jumps team on Facebook. I have been, keep your eye out on the Facebook page because I've been doing a lot of stuff with an updated website for us. It's kind of been outdated with everything. Keep your eye out because there's a lot of big stuff coming up with Jumps I've been in the works of. And, just keep an eye, much like everything else with Paradelphia, obviously, page 2. But, big things coming up, and plus those investigations. So
All right.
it's almost like we were quarantined, and now, holy hell, can't keep up.
Not no more. Not no more, COVID.
Rock on.
Not today, COVID.
It's going to be my new middle name. Call
All
me
right. So,
COVID.
again, as far as social media, we are at Paradelphia on Twitter. You can search Paradelphia on Facebook, and you will find us there. Toxic Radio, again, at Toxic Radio Live on Twitter. And, again, they are on Facebook. They are on Instagram. They are on YouTube.
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of places.
Hey, all you young kids, whatever app you have on your phone, I'm sure you'll find
There's
Toxic
something new.
Radio somewhere.
Toxic on Tinder. Swipe right.
Wow. A Toxic Tinder. Can I date Toxic?
You can.
Just,
you too.
Just the name.
You
know
too
what I
can
mean?
date Toxic. All right, so we are going to wrap things up here. So for Doug,
I don't.
for Mike, for Jamie in studio, I am Rick. We are Paradelphia, and we are out of here.
Good night, everybody.